Welcome back to Chicken and Ranch. Or just chicken this time, because it's just me. I'm doing my top 10 albums from 2017. So this year I listened to more albums than I've ever listened to in a single year, which it's still kind of not a lot because it's 48. But I used to listen to like 6 albums a year or something, so this is a really big deal for me. And a lot of them were really good, so I want to talk to you about them. Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to do some honorable mentions, just 5, and then we'll get to the main top 10. No Shape by Perfume Genius, Pacifisticuffs by Diablo Sing Orchestra, Petite Afrique by Somi, Damn by Kendrick Lamar, and Utopia by Bjork. So now the list! Number 10 is Saturation 3 by Brockhampton. So this is the third album that this hip-hop boy band released in just this year, and all of which are really cool alternative hip-hop albums, elements of pop, rock, R&B, but this one I think gels together the best, and it goes into the most interesting directions. By far the most experimental, with just really cool sonic and lyric ideas, particularly Boogie, which opens it out, is an incredible track, amazing track, and then there's some really cool other cool tracks that go into really weird, interesting directions, like Johnny and Sister Nation and Team, and it's really fun, it's really odd, and I cannot wait to see where these guys go next. My number 9 is No One Ever Really Dies by Nerd, N-E-R-D. This album is so catchy. Oh, there's so many earworms that just burrow into your brain and they just don't leave. The really energized and smooth Lemon, the bombastic 1000, the really funky ESP, the really soulful Lightning Fire Magic Prayer. Like, it goes through so many different genres and styles, and it just works so incredibly well. All of it gels really nicely, even though it's going through like 8 different styles of music all crashing together at once. It's so good, it's so catchy, all the features work really well, but this is just one of their coolest projects, and I've been playing it on repeat since it came out. It's so good. Number 8 is Polygon Dwanaland by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This was the 4th of 5 albums that this group released just this year. And I really liked the first and the 5th albums they released, the first and last ones. I thought this was the coolest. And the first 4 albums all had different like concepts going into them, but I think this one had the coolest and executed extremely well, being just like super like proggy, like very much a prog rock album, in contrast to the mostly psychedelic stuff they do. In many ways, it sounds like King Gizzard's interpretation of like a Pink Floyd album, something like Dark Side of the Moon, but it's very much doing its own thing still. Another thing, too, is this album flows really well from track to track. Like, the whole thing operates more like one long, like, 40-minute track rather than a series of short tracks. And this is after the 11-minute opener with Crumbling Castle. And it sounds really good. It twists and turns in these really cool directions, and it pushes into a lot of different areas that they're very strong in, different styles and different genres of rock. And it's really, really cool. Love the hell out of it. My number 7 is Neo Wax Bloom by Iglugos. This album is crazy. It's such dense, like maximalist electronic music. And like the album I just mentioned, this one, it really flows from track to track. It always feels original and it's always mixing up what's happening. It's just this crazy electronic music, always really stuttering and glitchy, and it's just really wildly original. Like this really wonderful, kaleidoscopic, insane experience with an electronic album. Like, go listen to it. It's super cool. My number 6 album is Big Fish Theory by Vince Staples. This is probably the album I've listened to the most on this list, which it helps that it's really short, but it's also just like really catchy and flows really well, and it's just such wonderful production, and Vince Staples just has wonderful, like, just raps really well. Like, this is a really, really cool experimental hip-hop album. Like, doing a really cool thing of, like, fusing, like, West Coast hip-hop and G-Funk with, like, this really interesting, like, Detroit, Chicago-style, like, electronic music, or, like, UK electronic. The album title fits really well because from Crabs in a Bucket to Rain Come Down, it feels really watery. Like, it feels really vast and grand and, like, almost like oceanic, like you're a little fish in a big ocean. It's really unique that way. Yeah, really catchy, very replayable. I really love it. Number 5 is Forever is a Mighty Long Time by Big Crit. This is a really awesome double album of Southern hip-hop mixed with a lot of elements of like jazz and funk and soul and gospel and trap and R&B. Like, there's such a wonderful variety in these like 20 songs. A really cool variety of song topics and really cool variety of vibes on each song. Like, there's some that are really like inspired and inspirational. There's some that are very sad. There's some very angry. There's some that are like conflicted or confused or just really, really fun. And it's just a really wonderful, like, eclectic set of songs. Really great features throughout as well. Very personable, very, like, introspective songs. It feels very mature, like a very adult hip-hop album, which I love. I love when an album does that. And it just rocks really hard. It's really good. Like the one of the skits said, it's a classic. It's a classic. My number 4 is Quasar's Born on a Gangster Star by Shabazz Palaces. This is the one album on my list that I have not seen appear on like anybody else's top 10 lists, which is a shame because I think this is a really, really fantastic experimental hip-hop album. I think it's really underrated. Really fascinating production of like this weird mix of like glitch and like ambient music and this really like spacey electronic music with just like Ishmael Butler's really cool, really cryptic, but somehow cryptic and braggadocious lyrics on this whole thing. And the way he flows and the way it's produced, the way you can describe it, it sounds like some weird like alternate reality trap music. Because it's really spacey and these like really big contrast between like these really high and low tunes and like braggadocious lyrics. But it's going in such a different direction with it all. It's really, really fascinating production of like that glitchy, warped electronic with like African percussion and jazz. And I think this is their best album since their debut. So I'm really excited to see where it goes next. Hopefully more stuff like this. And now we're at the top 3 for this year. My number 3 is Crack Up by Fleet Foxes. This is their first album since their 2011 project Helplessness Blues, which my friend Joe showed me to a couple years ago, and I really like it. It's a really, really cool folk album. I think Crack Up was not only worth the wait, but I think it rivals Helplessness Blues in terms of quality. I think this is a really amazing follow-up to it. I love how much longer a lot of these tracks are and how winding and twisting they are, and they're structured in a way more linear way than their last album was, where they kind of stay in a certain sound for a while and then they move on to something totally new, and they go into this really windy, twisty way. And I love how they try to let it flow like that. I think it leads to really interesting sonic ideas and some wonderful melodies. I love how the vocals are mixed in such a really reverby way. I love the subtle incorporation of electronic music. Again, I love the melodies and harmonies that are set up in this album. They are such pretty folk tunes. So yeah, great job, Fleet Foxes. This album is gorgeous. I love it. My number 2 album is Rainbow by Kesha. This is by far my pop album of the year and one of the best pop albums of this decade, in my opinion. I love how eclectic and passionate and fun and empowering this album is. But I love this album message just like, screw everyone, screw everything. I'm going to do everything I want to do, everything I want to do. Do not stop me. I love how much this album ranges from like more straightforward pop, but it goes to like folk and country and really hard rock music. It's so wonderfully eclectic and varied. I've played this album so much, particularly some of the particular tracks that are just really, really catchy and wonderful, like Praying and Let 'Em Talk. It's just, I've played this. If it was physical, if I had like CD, then I would have worn them out a long time ago. They're so good. It also helps that this is an album I got to bond with Rachel over because she really loved this album too. So we got to play this album a lot together, as well as different songs off this album. It's so much fun. The album means so much to me from this year. So thank you so much, Kesha, for this album, and I'm so excited for what your future holds. And my number 1 album from this year, my album of the year, is Layla's Wisdom by Rhapsody. This is such an incredible, amazing, soulful, jazzy hip-hop record. Not only are the flows amazing, not only are the features great, not only is the production from people like Ninth Wonder and Crisis, like, unbelievable, but there are so many amazing bars. Like, just as a pure, just like lyrically, this album is incredible. There's so many layers to them, so much texture to them, so much complexity, so many great messages through them. Like, it's so good. And Rhapsody has so many great song topics, and she sticks to them so well. And she has so much great things to say about things like gender and race and love and politics, identity and like beauty and like self-empowerment. Like, it's so good. It is so good. So many great, just like fundamentals. Like, this isn't an extremely flashy, like different hip hop album. It's just so many strong fundamentals that it just can flex its quality so well. All of the revolutionary and incredible elements are way more subtle, and it's so strong because of that. Yeah, and I feel like none of the things that I can say can do justice for why this album is so good, so please go listen to it. It's so amazing. Thank you, Rhapsody, for this. Masterpiece, album of the year. Also, shout out Ninth Wonder for liking a tweet I said about that, calling it album of the year. That was awesome. That was really cool. I'm going to frame it. And those are my top 10 albums of 2017. Leave in the comments what your top 10 were. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one with Rachel back in it. So, see you next time. Bye! I'm back! What'd I miss?